My office is right on an active block.
Yeah, I
So
can hear it in the background.
Welcome to New Yorker's Perspective. This is Ron Brown, LMT, and today we have the Moors in the building to speak about some things. The overall point of this discussion is solutions. However, we want to tackle some things that we've had on our minds, and I would like to go straight into it with Brother Sharif and the question or the disagreement you have with the brother.
it's not a, okay. I'm glad I'm glad you phrased it that way. You know, it's not a disagreement, right? And and again, let's begin like this, right? And this is me being sincere. I'm not putting on airs. I'm not, you know what I mean? We're all men. The prophet said, "Moors are men, upright, independent, and
Come
fearless.
on, man. That's
Care for
right.
their loved ones and follow their prophet to a destination that's neither uncertain nor unknown." Right?
That's
To
right.
all men first. So these are my brothers.
That's right.
See what I'm saying? Right? And
Chapter 25.
so I'm prefacing it with this. Islam, classical Islam. I'm not talking about the revisionist Islam that we see, with our brothers in the East. Classical Islam, right, is a worldview and a way of thinking. And it means to seek, or Islam itself, the root word, of Islam means wholeness or oneness. I won't go into crazy detail about that, but it's 3 letters, Sin, Lam, and Mim. Oneness, wholeness, unity. That's what peace refers to. We say Islam means peace, wholeness, oneness. So a Muslim or a Muslim is one who seeks the peace, one who seeks oneness. So here's a great example. We may disagree on 50 things. Out of 50 things, we disagree on 49 things. Islam mandates that we unify on the one thing we agree on. How about that?
Islam.
See what I'm saying?
That's why we love Islam.
Man, listen. I love my wife to death. I give my life for my wife. But man, there's like 80 billion things, 80 billion, 11 things we disagree on. How about that? It doesn't change the fact that that's my wife.
That's right. That's right.
So what?
Yeah.
If there's a disagreement, so what? That does not, you see what I'm saying? That does not and should not prevent Muslims from being Muslims.
Keep love out front.
Islam. That's right, brother.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the first thing. So that being said, right? One of the points, matter of fact, that's one of the things I was just dealing with earlier today, with the Moorish Science Temple of America, as what the prophet set up is, and I'm not putting that on these brothers because these brothers have minds, hearts, and voices. They can speak for themselves. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying them. I'm saying that this is an idea that's out there that people move on. This idea, when the prophet during the first convention put the American flag around a young boy, a young brother, and the Moorish flag around a young sister, kissed him on the forehead and said, "I now declare that you're a nation within a nation." Right? There's a lot of us, and it's just due to our lack of understanding, that interpret that to mean, well, we're a nation. That means we're separate from the United States, that we're separate from the U.S. or we're separate from the USA or whatever. And the Moorish Science of America is an independent or semi-dependent government entity, separate, right? So when the prophet in his literature speaks about the nations of the earth, right? We have to contextualize it with history in the time he was in. The time was the 20s, roaring 20s. What was happening during that time period? The prophet took advantage of the great migration north, Asiatics moving north, and the time period of the mass immigration of European and other immigrants. During that time period, President Woodrow Wilson said that the greatest or the most dangerous American was the hyphenated American. Why? Because you all saw the movie Gangs in New York, right?
Yes, sir.
Great movie. So in the movie, there was really what you're looking at is how society around New York City formed. And there were cliques, gangs, so to speak, right? And the main beefs were between the natives. Who were the natives? The natives, they called themselves natives, were second generation Europeans whose fathers fought in the Revolutionary War versus immigrants. So now that translates down to Woodrow Wilson's time is this. When he said the hyphenated American was the most dangerous American, because it was still the issue. Well, we're just American. Well, that's against core American values. Core American values says that to answer to the constitutional standard, right? What is the constitutional standard? E pluribus unum. One nation made up of people from many different old world connections. So the prerequisite to answer up to the standard is that you got to say where you're from. What's your old world connection? Boom. So to say, oh, I'm just American. So you're saying that at a time when the Eurocentric idea has predominance. So you feel like you can say that. That's like Europeans today saying, I don't see color. You get it? The fact that you can even say that means you're exercising a privilege. So the immigrants were coming, mass immigrants in the 20s. So when the prophet makes the one public statement and he says, when he said he needs the help of all true American citizens and the government to help me, right, and redeem my people. He says if Germans, Japanese, Italians, Arabians, etc. are forced, who's he talking about? Immigrants. If they're forced to give their free national name and religion, then the law should be enforced on all Americans alike. So that's what he meant by nations of the earth. The American melting pot is a salad. It's not really you get it? So the Germans come here, what do? Click up. They're American citizens, but they're German. The
That's
Italians,
right. That's
the
right.
Irish, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So
Islam.
A nation within a nation. There you go. That's the perspective, and that's the point. Peace.
Peace. Anything to say behind that, or any
Well, Islam, I'm in agreement. I mean, the thing about it is that like the elder said, about gangs in New York and how immigrants come here, and as soon as they get established, they click up. They click up and they maintain their own cultural values and their own cultural laws. You got your Chinatowns, and the Tongs still really run Chinatown, and their lineage, it goes back to the Shaolin Temple, who's religious. You see what I mean? So everybody has that. The Italians, Roman Catholic, or the Christian canon law, which is the source of the United States court, not America. You see what I mean? When Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 describes the United States, it tells you it's a 10 by 10 square mile island between Maryland and Virginia. It's a corporation. It says 10 miles outside of that, you're in America. Moors, a lot of times what they do is they mix that up. Ask people all the time, well, where's the United States? What do you mean? It's where we at. It's right here. Where's it geographically? Where we at, man? We're here. No, this is the Connecticut Republic. This is the South Carolina Republic. Where's the United States? The United States is between Maryland and Virginia. It's a district per the Constitution. And we get that messed up. A good example is Oyatunji Village down in South Carolina. They're dead smack in South Carolina. All right, but they're a subnational entity. They're a political division that exists inside of another political division. And they allegedly have their own rules and regulations. I don't know much about Oyatunji Village. I don't know about it, so I'm not going to guess. But when you look at the legislation in the various states, it has similar language, and it articulates the religious corporations. I ask people this also. Well, what is the Moorish Science Temple of America? It's a religious organization. What else? It's a religious corporation. Well, what is a religious corporation? And then that definition is broken down. It is a not-for-profit corporation. It has a degree of autonomy. and is known by other governments on a subnational level or as a subnational entity. So the word subnational level or entity goes right to what the elder just said, a nation within a nation. Actually, our prophet said that. So it's a political division that exists. So now, chapter 48, verse 6 tells us that we don't desire to amalgamate. You got some people that think amalgamate means to crossbreed, and it means to mix or intertwine with other entities. So the
Islam,
prophet told us
Islam,
we don't desire to do that.
Islam,
Now, that doesn't mean that we're separatists.
Islam.
Islam. So this point right here, right, is left for like just interpretation, right? Because it's like you can say this is what it means. You can interpret it the way you are seeing it. However, it says amalgamate with the pale skin nations of Europe. So it's kind of when that's said, if it's said as vague as it is, I mean, you could take it and interpret it the way you want to interpret it. However, how I see it is amalgamating, meaning you're going into someone's community and you're living with the community, you're inside of that community and everything, right? You're having children, etc. So that's how I see it.
Islam, but the prophet said we don't desire to do it. Jelani Bay
Right.
didn't say that.
We don't desire.
We don't desire to do it. And then he clarified the fallacy of crossbreeding. He says, or marry into the pale skinned nations of Europe. And that's because those who have studied understand that per the definition, I don't like to do Black's Law Dictionary, but per the definition of free white person, it alienates the Aryan race, the Caucasian race, and the Indo-European race. Everybody else in Europe has Moorish blood in them, Moorish nobility, whether it's bleached out or not.
Islam.
You see what I mean? So it alienated them. So when you said the pale-skinned nations of Europe, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, he was talking about those tribes. Then it says follow after his religion. Well, we know that religion is a form of law in the United States. It's Christian canon law. You know, with the Hasidic Jews, it's halakha law and halakha courts. With the Muslims, it is Sharia. You know, and the Mormons and the Quakers, everybody have their own code of law. Like we talked earlier about a society or an order. You know, they have their own jurisdiction of laws, rules, and regulations that they abide by. And, you know, the prophet also told us not to be in variance with the city, state, and da-da-da-da. Well, the legislation, let me give you an example. South Carolina Codes 33-31-180 states that if the doctrine of a religious corporation is in conflict with this law, it uses the phrase with this chapter, the religious corporation takes precedence pursuant to the U.S. Constitution or the state constitution or both. And both those documents state the First Amendment to the Constitution. Congress shall pass no law with respect to religion or the practice and establishment thereof. And Congress is the boss of the United States Corp. They fall under that jurisdiction. So if the Constitution says that religion has a higher level of influence, I'll say for now, then it goes along the lines of how our prophet put this together. He gave us a constitution. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I got a quick question. You had mentioned Congress is the, how did you put it?
Like the ball.
Congress oversees the courts, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah, I said Congress is kind of like the boss of the United States Corp.
Okay. So
Washington, D.C.
All right. So what is and then you also earlier mentioned that you said the United States was the 10 by 10 mile square. between Virginia and
Article 1,
Maryland.
Section 8, Clause 17.
How does that interface, or how does Congress's authority reach outside of that?
Well, that's a good question, Elder, and that's one of the things that helped me kind of make the decision.
Boop,
You know,
bop, 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 bop.
because
Y'all
Congress
see why
doesn't
I'm
have a
just sitting on
law.
the side? You see why I'm just sitting over here? We're gonna let y'all
Go ahead,
get
Joe.
that
Got to
in
get
there.
down. So I mean,
But the reason I ask, you know, there's a number of things that you said that you know that I would contest, but I want to hear more about where you're coming from. This is the first time we really had this conversation.
Praise the
So
Lord.
I want to hear
Praise the
more
Lord.
about where you're coming from. That's why I'm sitting listening, and I'm literally taking notes. I'm listening and I'm taking notes. But so when that came up, I said, whoa, wait a minute. Let's address that because it's fresh, right? And because there's other people also listening. So they're probably thinking the same thing. Wait a minute. He said that, United States is 10 by 10 miles square, but then he said that Congress is the boss of the other courts. And those other courts are in the land. So how does that work?
well, Congress is the overseer of the federal jurisdiction and below. It has no jurisdiction over the constitutional courts. See, that's why you get your federal court jurisdiction, your federal statutes, your statutes, codes, and ordinances. All of those things fall under Congress, and Congress convenes in Washington, D.C. This is where they make the law and enforce the law, like our grand conventions are supposed to be. See, so it's a jurisdiction that is confined to the federal jurisdiction, but then the constitutional jurisdiction is outside of that federal jurisdiction. This is
How
why
can
we
it be
have,
outside?
this is why you appeal cases up.
Right, but how can it be outside of the federal jurisdiction if the federal jurisdiction created it?
The federal jurisdiction then created, the Constitution created it.
The
The U.S. Constitution says Article 1, Section 8.
This is true, but the Constitution also created the federal jurisdiction.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's
so.
What
What is the so again? The question is, what is the relationship between Congress, in this case, let's say Congress, and the courts? What is the relationship?
Which level of courts, Elder?
Any level.
Well, I mean, like I said again, if they can't settle a case in the federal court, it goes to the Supreme Court.
Article 3, I get that. But what is the relationship between Congress and the court?
Oh, the Congress is the head of the legislative body. It's like a general assembly of a state. And it's those rules and regulations that Congress come up with that trickle down the chain of command to your municipalities.
So would you agree? Would you agree that there'd be nothing to adjudicate in the courts, in any court, if it wasn't for Congress?
I agree. In the lower court, absolutely. Yeah, from the federal courts on down, you're absolutely correct. Yes, sir.
Right. Because that's what legislation does. It makes law. That's why the prophet said.
Yes, sir.
That's why the prophet said, "If you doubt whether my principles are good for the salvation of my people, go to those that know the law." He didn't say in the courts.
That's right.
Those that know the law in City Hall. Why City Hall?
City Hall. That's right.
Is the smaller municipal level of the legislative power. It's where the laws are made, right? It's where the laws are made. And it's far better for me to be sitting in the seats where people are making the laws than arguing them with a magistrate after the fact.
That's a lot better.
I have a question for you, Elder.
Yes, sir.
Act 1.
Yes, sir.
Please break that down for me.
The Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs. He lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Right?
That's right.
Now, here's the thing. Make law and enforce law. I think that's the part you want to focus on, right? Here's the thing. This is one of the things that we all of us have a problem with. Context is king. But guess what? it's also a moving target to many of us.
Facts.
Here's our context, people. The context is right here. The Moorish Science Temple of America, right? Deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad to do what? To be a civil authority? To be a traffic authority? To be a judicial authority? What? It's very specific. To propagate the faith and extend the learning and truth of the great prophet of Ali in America, to anoint, point, consecrate missionaries, and establish the faith of Islam in America. See, so in other words, do we have a government? Absolutely. For a religious organization, not a civic authority, not a judicial authority, not a police force, that's already taken care of. That's why it's incorporated in this government, according to the prophet. Incorporated in this government. See?
Islam.
Yes, sir.
So
Hey, they coming with some heat tonight. This is heat.
so Islam, elder. So
Praise the Lord.
in
Oh, and
Islam,
brother,
what
I'm
is
not,
the-
yo, brother. I'm not an elder, man. Don't do that to me.
Yeah,
Man.
you.
Listen,
Oh yeah.
listen.
We see
For the
the gray,
record, y'all.
man.
Now I'm
Don't
gonna
do
say this
that.
in public. I'm gonna say
We
this
see
in public.
the gray.
This man right here, when he didn't have the fur on his face, all right, is the first dude I heard talk about Moorish science back in his Moorish jurisprudence days, circle of
Yes,
mother
sir.
and son days.
Yes, sir.
And he was so impressive. I said, "Where do I sign? Where do I sign?" You see what I mean?
Hey, Brother Ron, what I tell you earlier, the Moors in Chicago say, man, send for that Mo. Get him here.
He's just trying to be humble right now. That's all that is. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Plus, he's an excellent
I'm
kung fu teacher as well. You know, as a fellow
I'm just
Oh,
martial
man,
artist.
put it out there. Put it out there.
For real talk, I'm just your brother, you know. But see, and again, this is the kind of dialogue that needs to happen, right? But it
Yeah,
can't
right,
happen.
that's right.
Here's the
That's
thing.
right.
It can't happen if Muslims are not on board.
Islamism.
Can't happen without Muslims on board. See that? That's the whole thing. That's the whole
But you know something, though? I
Yes.
told this brother Ron, I said, you know what? I can see this happening because both of these Moors go back before there was social media, when everybody was on conference calls.
when you had to be outside.
Yeah. Almost the wrote it down, Joy.
When you had to be out, when you really had to be outside. It wasn't no social media. You know what I'm saying?
Islam, I want to get back to on track to where we were
Yes.
before we and started enjoying each other's energy.
Right. So okay, I wanted to finish that point. So, right, it's very specific. See, the organization or the religious corporation, what gives the corpus, the body, life is its purpose. You see what I'm saying? It's the purpose that gives it life, that also describes the parameters of its activity. You see? And so let's look at the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, in order to what?
Form a more perfect
union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish it. You get it? So there's your parameter. It describes a civil authority protected by a military with a government, a republic form of government whereby the people rule by way of their elected representatives. That is what a republic is.
Islam, elder, that's a good
by
point.
way of their elected representatives.
Islam, and as you were sharing that, I heard chapter 25 with Act 1.
Come on, brother.
Islam. You know what I'm saying? And see, that's another key point that people misunderstand me. Just like you said, and to the republic.
Mm-hmm.
It don't say nothing about democracy in the language.
Let's address that. What is the difference between a republic and a democracy?
Like you said, the republic is for the people, by the people. The democracy is, for lack of a better term, like mob rule. Like they would say, yeah.
Okay. Now here's the thing, and this is really good dialogue. And this is really good for the people, because a lot of people out there, like what you said. First of all, I agree. what you said, in short, about the democracy being majority rule. I agree with that, right? But a lot of people out there saying, yeah, I'm part of the republic. I don't have nothing to do with the democracy. Okay, define both. And they can't. That's like people saying, are you against anabolic
LGBT or
steroids?
something?
Anabolic steroids. And they go, yes, I'm against it. What is an anabolic steroid? What about people with asthma that have to take prednisone? They're not. See? Because prednisone is an anabolic steroid. You get it? Okay. So they don't know. So the first thing, a lot of times we presume a lot of times that people are saying words that they actually know what they are. So let's start, I'm fond. Well, listen, we want to make understanding understood. So let's start with base bottom. Base bottom. What is a republic? Republic is representative government. But guess what? We could represent a king. We could say, okay, because you got Europeans right now talking about King Trump.
Facts.
That's totally against the American people.
Facts.
So the people could say, we are gonna use the sovereign power is the power of the electoral process. That is the sovereign power. We look it up in Black's Law Dictionary, right? The sovereign people are the constituent voters in the society who exercise the sovereign power through the election process. Now, that being said, what if we said we're going to elect a king? We no longer have the American principle, do we? Right? Because a king is a monarch. He has no checks and balances. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier about the difference between the legislative branch, judicial branch, executive branch. Checks and balances. So guess what that is, people? That's a democratic principle. That's a democratic principle. You see? So we have properly is a democratic republic. So what the sovereign citizen groups did back in the 80s and the 90s in the redemption movement said that, now you got to remember their purpose. I know I talked to L.A. Pathai before he passed back in the 90s. Leonard Peth, you could look him up, right? Fought in the Korean War. He was one of the main people that was part of Posse Comitatus and then started. Listen, I asked him flat out. I said, what is your purpose? He said, to bankrupt the government. We're fighting the government. Whoa!
Ooh, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that.
So that's the purpose. So when they said there's a democracy and then there's a republic, and this is the democracy right here, we're against that, right? Whoa. See? They did that on purpose so they could justify fighting the very government that the prophet said we're part and partial to. Are we part and partial to it? Do you all remember a couple of years ago when I caught up with we ran into each other in Philadelphia, me and Taj Tariq Bey? This was the question I asked him. This was the question because he said that the prophet restored the republic. I said, okay. I said, so properly speaking, the way you all teach, the republic ended in the spring of 1861 when the South pulled away. And he goes, yes. I said, okay. Well, that was 25 years before the prophet was born. So when did he reestablish the republic? And what government was he dealing with in 1928 when the Moors were voting in Chicago? And that's what he couldn't answer. That's what he couldn't answer. See? He couldn't answer.
So okay, with that heat.
Islam, I want you to explain what a Republican is and what a Democrat is by definition.
The same thing as a Federal Express traveler's check. Has nothing to do with the federal government. It just uses the word federal. A Republican is just a name of a political party. And the Democrat is just a name of a political party.
Teach.
That is it. It's not a Republican represents the Republic and the Democrats represent the Democrat. No, it's not what it is. They're just two political vehicles that people often jump back and forth into. That's it. You see, that's it. That's what it is. I know there's people that are like, well, the prophet said that the Moor's watchdog isn't a dog, it's an elephant. Yes, he did. Was that an endorsement for the Republican Party? Absolutely. Does that mean that we're all supposed to be Republicans? The prophet said we're supposed to be intelligent.
Intelligent, that's right.
And if you read the articles during the Moorish Guide in 1928 in the Moorish Guide newspaper, he spoke. Matter of fact, there's a specific article. There's a specific article called Political Slavery.
I got it right here.
Praise the Lord. And in that article, essentially, what is he's talking about? Two different types of political slavery. One is non-participation. Ready for this one? The other is being beholden to the agenda of one or the other political party when it doesn't address your issues. In other words, we don't play party politics. We play politics and issues politics. That's what we do, right? That being said, how many of you are aware of the Southern strategy? I wrote a paper on it. I'll share the paper with you at a later time. But the Southern strategy was the point where the Dixiecrats and the European Southerners that were formerly Democrats switched cars.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
They was moving as Republicans, right?
Now they are. The Dixiecrats are in that car now.
Yeah.
But we think because we confuse the car for the person. Trust me, you bump me with your car, I'm not kicking the car, I'm looking in the windshield. You see what I'm saying? So we are, many of us are unaware of the fact that those guys switched parties. Remember, in those days, the Democratic Party was the party of the KKK. Actual fact, right? The abolitionists, their party was the Republican Party. Actual fact. But follow me. Abolition, the abolishment of slavery was considered a liberal issue.
Islam.
Pro-slavery was a conservative issue.
Islam. Jelani Bey, would you like to add on to that?
Add on to what, man? What you talking
about? He coming with that heat.
Hey, I'm trying to play journalists up here, you know.
Well, see, I mean, that's a good question because it's just like I told you, dear brother.
Yes, sir.
People, and can I do this little side note? Yes. People assume what Jelani Bey's on.
Right.
I've been called a sovereign citizen and all this different stuff. But what they don't understand is I was caught in a situation with the individuals in the Taj era. I was on that too, yes. And like most. And my leadership, I came in the Federation Moorish Science Temple under Supreme Grand Sheikh Jerome Grand Bey. Peace and blessings be upon him. I didn't know he had passed form. Sheikh Anua Tierra L was my personal sheikh out of North Carolina with the Tierra L Associates Indigenous Law Firm. And she told me to contact the local government in Greenwood, South Carolina. And peace and blessings be upon him. Yusuf Rami Bey told me the same thing because I was the East Coast Regional Commander under him. Nobody told me what to say or how to say it. So now the county had no problem.
Excuse me, wise one. You just said all those names like the people out there in the social media world know you talking about the Great Seals, and you went from one group to another group. You got to break it down.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that correction. Yes, sir. So
that's right, Neil Bey.
That's right. Do it. So the Moab Tierra Cherokee Kittiwah was led by Anua Tierra L. Peace and blessings be upon her. She's past form.
Yes.
And she told me to introduce myself to the local government. Well, the county, the unincorporated jurisdiction, the county sheriff, his only concern was, like you said, Elder, with the posse comitatus doing bonfires and shooting off machine guns and stuff like that. And we assured them, no, our prophet taught us to live under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We don't deal like that. We're a peaceful people, Right. Well, a dude named Michael Butler for the local police department. He was the assistant chief of police and a Christian minister.
Yes.
His response was, I'll look into it.
Right.
Well, that Negro went and looked up the El Rukins.
Right.
And then said that that's who we were. When I was approached with it, I was like, what's an El Rukin? I didn't know.
We know, don't we, Brother Neil Bay?
Oh, yes, we do.
I bet y'all do. So, they came at me. He came at me full force. They doggone forced. We had a community of 30. He forced everybody either out of town, out of the movement, or just disappearing. And I went to the Secretary of State.
Right.
I got access to that redemption manual because nobody was giving me any answers, none of my leadership. And I went there and I said, I want to do a UCC. They said, sir, you can't do a UCC on a human being. No, man, the redemption manual said da 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 da. So then some told me,
that's your Bible at that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It was my lifesaver.
Cheat code.
Everything that leadership was telling us to do, they were attacking us about it.
Right.
And nobody gave me a remedy on what to do once they attacked.
Right.
Nobody told me how to approach them in an intelligent tone. They was doing a lot of that back then. Hey, here's a piece of paper. You're a leader. See them in letting you crash and burn. So a lot whispered at me and says, ask him about a Moorish Science Temple of America. I said, are there more Science Temple of America here? She says, yeah, and turned to the computer. My mind was like, oh, it's in the computer? So she said, yes, there's one in Aiken and another one in Savannah on the South Carolina side. I said, how did they do that? And I had two of my sheikhs with me. I got the form and I said, now look, with the bureaucracy going on in the Moorish Divine and National Movement, especially from the various temples and the jurisdictions, I says, I'm not going to put my first charter out there, which was given to me by the embryo Moorish Science Temple. My grand sheikh was Mayat Spirit Bey, and that was under the leadership of Mishael Ali Il out of Maryland. All right. So I was ordained Grand Sheikh Divine Minister May 26, 2006, right there in Greenwood, South Carolina. Everybody and their grandmama was there. C. Freeman Ill, Elihu Pleasant Bay, Hakeem Bay, the whole gambit was there.
Old moles. Those are old moles right there.
Yeah, them old moles. So once I did that, I started understanding what the prophet did, and it took me back to the prophet's historical message to America and how he told us how he established the jurisdiction. And so with that example, I formed the Ministry of Land Transport and Navigations. People like, well, you that right to travel stuff. No. The Department of Motor Vehicle is a corporation for profit. So I said, well, let me do a jurisdiction that's religious and not for profit. Diversity. That's all. And the highest courts in the land backed up that action. So I'm not a sovereign citizen. I'm not on that right to travel tip. I follow my prophet on how to establish a religious corporation. And then we went from there with the Ministry of Holistic Health and Ministry of Education. And, we got about 13 of them now. So following that same example, right from the Quran Circle 7. And in Moorish Holy, we call it Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World because of May 1st, 1916. All right. That was one of the first jurisdictions, the first constitution and bylaw, the first constitution and laws was Moorish Holy Temple. All right. Then, because we were in South Carolina, we said, okay, let's add the Free and Sundry Moors Act in there. All right. And then the Moorish Science Temple of America. Why? Because we were trying to find out how to solve these problems. And another elder who I was dealing with, he was like, look, man, you come in our grand body and the only thing they're going to do is fine you. And I'm like, you're going to dig in my pocket because I'm trying to find truth? No, that's all right. So we didn't have jurisdiction, and this is how we just went into the laboratory and experimented with stuff. It was no disrespect to any grand body, especially not the prophet.
Right.
It was a means to try and find solutions. Other than that, when we have our meetings, it's chapter, verse, sentence, paragraph. Islamism. I just wanted to put that out there as a foundation about what Jelani Bay is. Other than that, man, I'm about Islamism.
Right.
And then I also want one more second, Elder. It's in me, bro. I got to call you Elder. It's in me, bro. It's like embedded. But
he said, sure, like
yeah. Hey, look, he feeling it anyway. Then I
you still 21 in heart. You give you 21 in heart. You 21.
Right? Yeah. I started
I'm trying, man.
Government and how they work. You know, and I says, wow, you know.
No, could you repeat that? I didn't hear that. Could you say that again?
I started studying religious governments and how they work. You see what I mean? And I started trying to parallel it with the structure of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. I never wanted to get into what happened in 1928 and this and why Kirkman Bay did this and why John Givens. I never wanted to do that because to me, respectfully, that was spinning wheels. Our babies are dying in the street. We have no college.
Agreed.
You know, we don't have a string of schools where my grandchildren can doggone leave Connecticut, well, they're in South Carolina, and move to Syracuse. And because they're Moorish American, enrolled in a school from K5 to 12, and when they get out of doggone to the 12th grade, they go to a Moorish college like the Seventh-day Adventists.
Right. That's right.
So that's why we created the Ministry of Education and begging scholars to come in and build a curriculum. I don't know everything, but please come in here and contribute in unity. You know, your expertise, even Taj, he's an excellent historian. Respectfully, the jurisprudence has questions, but as a historian, don't smile like that, bro. Don't all right.
You know?
All right. Yo, listen, I love Taj, man. And just, you know, let's be let's be fair and balanced. You know, when we were coming up, when we were young, half a hot shots, because that's what I was. I was a young half a hot shot, right? And it was, again, it was during that era. I'm talking summer of 1991, where, you know, we had listen, we it was all outside. Everything was outside. You know, the only way to test it was to test it. You had to jump in the water, and that's what we did. And so Taj at the time was one of the few, if any, that we had access to that had written material that we could read and study. That stuff was cracked to us. But as the prophet said, as man unfolds, as God unfolds. Man, today,
and you became a god from there. Where Chicago said, "Get them here."
Right.
Then deep in y'all pockets, we're gonna get Sharif here. Well, we thought we had a party going on for real. The God from New York to Chicago.
His presentation was scholastic at the highest level. I mean, over a lot of people's heads. So instead of doing the investigation and trying to figure out exactly what he was saying in his language, they interpret it for them based on their own education. And this is where they
go ahead, brother. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish up.
No. And based on that, that's why you get all of these renditions. Let's look at driver's license fraud. All right. Okay. Facts. Okay, no problem. Okay, so how do you process yourself out of that jurisdiction?
Well, hold on. Is it fraud? See,
well, it's fraud in the perspective that South Carolina says it best, that if the driver's license is like any other license, it is permission from a competent government source to do something that otherwise would be against the law. So now it governs commercial travel. So what would be against the law is for me to get my ignorant of truck driving, get up in an 18-wheeler and try to go from New York to Florida, and I get pulled over and I don't have a CDL. That means I wasn't formally trained.
Now here's the question.
Yes,
right?
sir.
You mentioned commercial travel, right?
Yes, sir.
Here's the question, right? From where do we get that definition of driving from?
I just know the definition, Elder. Please enlighten me. Where does it come from?
But from where do we get that definition? Because, in other words, my question implies that there's more than one. And remember, context is king. So if there's more than one, then we have to make sure we are dealing with the one that applies.
Islam.
Okay.
Headshots.
You see what I'm saying? So that definition is
Really,
out of Black's Law Dictionary, right? Now, nothing wrong with that. But again, remember, Black's Law Dictionary is not an instruction on law. It's just a compendium of terms used in legal nomenclature, right?
Islam. That's right.
All right. Now, so it gives the definition of a driver as one who is engaged in the use of the public highways
for commercial purposes.
For commercial purposes, right? Now, why does it give that definition? Here's the answer. And why does that definition differ greatly from public services definition, or from public what's the term? I just mentioned it. Public.
Is it public safety?
Public.
You said something about public safety earlier.
Yes. Why does it differ from that of public safety at the municipal level? And it differs greatly. Why is the question? Here's the answer. Have you ever heard of and I'm talking about in this government, United States government. Have you ever heard of a federal traffic authority? No.
Wouldn't that be the Department of Transportation?
But they don't issue licenses. See that? So there's no such thing as a federal traffic authority.
Okay. So
the reason they mention driver's license in that context is because they're talking about interstate issues, which would bring in the federal government. That's why. Okay. Now, when you go to traffic court, it's a totally different demonstration and a totally different definition.
Islam Grand Sheikh, what about DOT numbers?
Department of Transportation numbers don't. Okay, explain. What do you mean? Explain.
Isn't Department of Transportation, that's federal, correct?
Yes, sir.
And state?
Well, states have Department of Transportation. You see, they have it. But again, I can't apply to the federal government for a driver's license.
Can I register my vehicle with them though?
I don't know about that one. I don't know if we could do that. And even if so, what would be the basis and the purpose of doing so?
Commercial and non-commercial?
What if but then for what purpose? See, now watch. See, now we're getting to the meat of things. The spirit of the law is the purpose.
That's my wife in the back. She's staring.
What purpose was the Moorish Science Symbol of America founded? Answer: to uplift fallen humanity.
That's right.
The spirit of the structure, right? What is the duty of a prophet? Duty, purpose, save nations from the wrath of Allah. In other words, he's not just a regular thought of Allah.
Right.
Specific thought, right? Okay. So what is the purpose of the regulatory power for transportation of a state? Is it to deny people the right of freedom of travel? See, because if it is, then we could say it's fraud. Mm-hmm. But what is it?
But they do it though. Think about it, Chief. Think about it, Chief. You shared with us earlier that they do it with child support. Let
the more go. Let the more get his point off.
But so what is the purpose? So traffic law falls under what? Public safety. Mm-hmm. Now follow me. I come to Brother Neil Bay's house and he says, yo, Mo, you my brother, make yourself at home. That does not mean raid his refrigerator. Man, the sister gonna have it. I'm gonna be met with bullets, bombs, and hand grenades. Sister is not having it. You get my point? In other words, I'm free to do what I'm free to do as long as it does not infringe or endanger. See, because that's a crime too, people. To endanger the life, liberty, pursuits of others. In other words, any action that may do so, get it? So when I go to Brother Neil Bay's house and he says, make yourself at home, oh, my freedom is regulated, isn't it? For the sake of what? The sanctity of his household.
Islam.
Sure.
Islam.
That's
That's
public
right.
safety, people.
I like that.
So the right of any man in a society. Remember, we got chapter 30, the social duties.
That's
Nothing
right.
we enjoy can be had without the interaction of society, which means
That's
we have
right.
to consider everybody involved. That being said, the right to freedom, including travel, can and should be regulated for the sake of public safety. If not, what do you got? I'm driving my car and I'm traveling in my land vessel and I got my headset on, I got the music loud, boom, I'm not paying attention. I run into the back of Neil Bay's vehicle. Neil Bay gets out, his vehicle's damaged, he has children in the back. One of them is crying, they may be injured. And I'm like, man, I'm sovereign. What's wrong with you? I'm not liable. You know what happens next, don't you? Bullets, bombs, and hand grenades. That is not society, people. That is Wild Wild West. That's not civilization. You see? Now, do these things get abused? Yes, but baseball bats get abused. Are we banning baseball bats? You get my point? Do police, other people misuse and abuse these things? Yes.
Exactly.
But that's not a fault of the purpose. That's a fault of other people misusing the purpose. So I say all that to say this. From this perspective, we can see that the driver's license is just evidence of proof that you are conforming
to this contract.
For the sake, or not, it's not a contract.
Say it again. Say it again.
Contract has two or more signatures. Guess
Right.
what else? A contract has specific details, and a contract is mutual, meaning both sides have equal to lose or not. So the driver's license is not a contract, people.
Come on, okay.
It has to. Islam, Elder, it does have two signatures on a driver's license. It has the director and the person who the driver's license is going to.
Your signature is on that driver's license?
A regular signature. You put it in that little box.
Brother Ron, is your signature on your driver's license?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but hold on. Who else's signature is on it?
I forgot.
Secretary of State.
What are the stipulations listed on that driver's license that you agreed to? They're not listed.
They're not listed, right? It's an adhesion contract.
It's not a contract. That's the thing. It's not
all law is contract, Elder.
Oh no. I can't agree with that. I'm going to tell you why.
Hey, Brother Ron, I set that up off of my wife. I knew if I threw that alley-oop, what it was.
But listen, I can't agree with all law is contract. This is why, right? If all law is contract, matter of fact.
There go that smile, y'all. There go that smile. He's gonna kick somebody's head off. Watch out.
No. If all law is contract, right? If all law is contract,
okay,
that means all law is business.
All law is what, sir?
I said if all law is contract, then all law is business.
All law is business, correct?
Are you sure about that? Watch. So
I'm not too sure about that.
Watch this. When I come to Brother Neil Bay's house and he says, make yourself at home. And I'm like, yeah, well, that, according to my customs, traditions, and laws,
you take a water.
That means I raid your fridge. Are we negotiating? There's no
Right.
negotiating. See?
No, yeah.
There's no negotiating
vague
that.
right
I'm in
there.
the man's house.
Yeah.
Only a savage.
Teach.
Only a savage would do such a thing. That's not civilization. And the prophet said the keys of civilization was and is in the hands of the
Asiatic nation. Yeah.
See that? In other words, how did we fall? Did we fall because we lost knowledge of ourselves? No. We fell because we stopped being Muslims.
Islam.
We fell knowing exactly who we were. We stopped treating each other right.
Islam.
We stopped treating each other right.
Islam. And this is a segue into my next question. As far as the movement, right? So the movement, everyone has like a different perspective on the teachings.
Yes, sir.
And and a lot of us, most all of us, in fact, we're humans, different brains, etc. So we're going to always see things from different perspectives.
Yes.
Now, with that said, how do we bring all of the different perspectives together under one common cause?
I want to quote something that Brother R. Jones Bay, my leadership. You know, I'm a member of the Moorish Science Simple American Incorporated under the leadership of Brother R. Jones Bay. I'm gonna quote him, you know, to kind of set the conversation. He said, "Unity will come when we all accept the same thought." Now, of course, on the mundane level, that sounds like we all have to just agree with every little. No, we all accept the same thought. What do we mean by that? And I'm talking in a broad sense. Brother Jelani Khalfani Bey, do you believe that Allah is God?
Islamism.
Do you believe that Prophet Noble Drew Ali is his prophet and the last prophet in these days and times?
Islamism.
Do you believe that we are Moorish Americans, descendants of Moroccans and born in America?
Islamism.
Ain't nothing else to talk about.
Right.
Everything else will work out in the wash.
Chapter, verse, in this paragraph, baby.
Brother, I already know, Brother Neil Bay, you're gonna answer the same way. I already know. See, we could begin unification. Unification is a process, people. Just like man is a process.
That's right.
Right? Our questionnaire says, who made you? Whoa, hold on. I thought chapter 1 says everything that's made will be what? Unmade. So how can and that spirit man and Allah are one, and while Allah man cannot die. Right. So how can we say who made you? Here's the answer, right? Man, chapter 7 is truth and falsehood, strangely mixed. We are a process. That's why.
Yes, sir.
We're a process. You see what I'm saying? And so we're in a process, right? Pray, what is faith? Faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man, the certainty that man will. We got work to do. Will means deific life. That being said, unity itself is a process as well. If we can agree on those three things, let's move out.
How?
Does that mean that he has to join?
What would be the first step?
Okay, hold on.
Just what the elder just said.
Does that mean that Brother Khalfani Bey has to dissolve what he's doing and join the Moorish Science Simple of America Incorporated at this stage? No, it doesn't. He agrees on those things. I agree. Follow me. What Chinese American has to join an organization to be Chinese American?
Boom.
Look, he threw a karate something. That was a kung fu something.
He threw a grenade, man. Would you stop over there, man? Stop.
But you see my point? Let's review Act 6. Act 6 says what? With us, all members must proclaim the nationality. Us is the members.
That's right.
And we are teaching who? Our people. Those are non-members.
I hear Hawkins, Bay. Come on with it. Come on with it.
We are teaching our people their nationality and divine creed. In other words, to quote a very famous actor, Lawrence Fishburne, in a very famous movie, The Matrix, talking about his ship, the Nebuchadnezzar. What is the purpose of the MSTFA? To rise up to broadcast level and broadcast our pirate signal in the Matrix. That's the purpose. We want to mainstream the idea that we are not Negro, black, and colored. We are descendants of Moroccans born in America. So that means that every Asiatic can say that, whether they're in the organization or not. That's the whole purpose, to change the narrative. We're in the
that's some heat.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. And see, we can't. The Prophet founded it. Does that mean a European can't come up and say we're not Negro, black, and colored, or our people aren't? A European sure can. He can.
Can you say that again? Say that again.
Listen, he could say that about us, I'm saying. He could jump up and say that about us.
Come on.
Why? Because the Prophet said it. All the European is doing is telling the truth. You get it? Let's say a European started an organization and said the Moorish American Education Company, and he started putting out literature and things about us. What do we say? Praise Allah. He's telling the truth. You can't reinvent the wheel. The Prophet already set it up, man. The Prophet already did the job. You can't reinvent the wheel. I'm not mad at that European for doing it. I'm mad at us for him beating us to the punch.
That's right.
That's one of the people I looked at, Elder. I said, how did this dude do this? Oh, right. I know Elder German Bay, that whole name. We ain't gonna get into that.
Right.
But the information he took from our Prophet and the progress that he made for his organization based on those principles.
I'm not mad at it.
Ain't mad at it at all. So why we so far behind the 8 ball and we supposed to be the direct children?
And here's the other part about that too. Remember, the organization, Moorish Science Symbol of America, right, is a thought, people. You hear that, Brother Ron Brown? It's a thought. It ain't paperwork. It's a thought.
Hey, you know what? To add to that thought, I like to call it our school, our chartered school.
Brother,
but we went to sleep.
Brother, yeah. Of
Our
course.
charter school.
No, of course. But it's so watch. In real, I'm not talking about dime store, Cracker Jack box, just add water, secret orders. In real order, higher orders, secret orders, whatever. A school of thought is called a temple.
Yes,
right. Yes, right. Islam. That's
so
right.
John the Harbinger, when he was showing people how to wash, those that he washed comprised what? The temple of purity, people.
Islam.
That's right.
That's right.
Moorish Science of America is a thought.
That's right.
That's what it is. So that's what that's what Brother R. Jones Bay meant when he said we all have the same thought. That's when unity will start. Recognizing that the movement and the organization itself is a thought. Because man is a thought.
Islam. That's right.
Man's a thought. To camel back on what you just said, Elder, that's just like, in the Chinese community, all right, the Manchurian community, all right. I can't go to Mr. Wing and tell him Mr. Chai said he's a terrible businessman.
Sure can.
Automatically, he's going to say, well, thank you very much, Mr. Bay, but we Chinese don't do that. In other words, if me and if them two got beef, they'll never tell Hot Guy. They'll never tell Hot Guy about their business. See what I mean?
He said Hot Guy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. They'll never tell it. In other words, they'll never tell outsiders about their beef. But that's an unspoken law.
For the listeners, the term Hot Guy is Cantonese for black ghost or black.
I didn't know what it meant. I'm like, okay, what that mean?
Thank you very much. I get the rattling sometimes.
The Chinese,
it's their N word.
Yeah, no doubt. The Chinese, when they refer to Europeans, now it's general for non-Chinese in general, but in the old days they called them Guilo.
Oh yeah,
Guilo meant foreign devil. That's what it meant. Yeah, that's what it meant.
The Chinese believe if you're not Chinese, you're a ghost. I'll deal with you on a superficial level, but other than that, right. I mean,
the Chinese are very nationalistic, very, very much so. The name China itself, the actual name of the country, they call it Zhongguo, which means the central kingdom. Basically means the center of the earth. It's us versus everybody else. That's how they see it.
See, so,
Time never was when man was not.
Listen, yo,
we gotta do this
brother,
again, man.
You gotta do us the honors, brother Neil Bay. Oh, but real quick, can I say something really quick, brother Ron Brown?
Indeed.
Praise the Lord. You had said something. We got to do this again. You had mentioned early on, brother Jelani, about the 10 by 10 mile square thing, right? And I said there's a number of things that I want you to read the law, and what it is February 21st, 1871, 41st Congress. And it's recorded. It's recorded. No. That was after. You're talking 1861 and 1861. The whole, without day, because right. I'm talking about something else. So in 1871, it was Section 34, Section 3, Chapter 61 and 62, which was an act to provide a government. Nowhere in that does it say United States. It only says District of Columbia. So it's not the United States is 10 by 10 miles square. It's the District of Columbia. It never says the United States. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never says that. So what happens is that other people would presume it. So they say, oh, the United States is just 10 by 10 miles square. No, the District of Columbia is, which is the seat of Congress.
Islam. But that's what people coined the United States. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that the land, there's a difference between the corporation and the land. Right. Article 4, Section 4. Okay. Every state is a Republican form of government.
But that corporation is not called the United States. It's called the District of Columbia.
Islam.
That's my point.
Islam.
Islam. Brother Ron, did you like this show today?
Islam.
You want to? Who wants to pray? Who wants to pray?
Can I do the chapter 25 and then somebody closes out with the prayer?
Praise the Lord. Let's do it.
Yes, Ron. Okay. You are the children of one Father,
provided for by His care.
Oh, well, go ahead.
No, we said it together.
Okay. Islam.
Islam.
You are the children. No. Go ahead, lead us, Sheik.
You are the children. We are the children
of one Father.
Provided for by His care.
And the breast of one mother has given you such. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee
with thy brothers. That peace and happiness may dwell in thy Father's house. And when you separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you
to love and unity.
Prefer not a stranger to thine own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister's in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy Father contribute to the support of His whole race, and His care be continued to you all through your love to each other.
Islamism.
That's the solution right there. That's what we got to stand on. And we are one. The Moors like to argue, and I always share with them. I don't take a side. I'm on Noble Drew Ali's side. You feel what I'm saying? I ain't on nobody's side but truth.
Praise the Lord.
So we appreciate both of y'all for this. And we need more of it.
All of us on this thing, and to that point, to be very strict about it, everything up until July 20th, 1929 at 10:10 p.m. cannot be argued about.
It's long.
It's long.
He dropped thunderbolts, didn't he?
Everything after that,
no, but,
up for discussion.
That's my war cry. Respectfully, anything after that
the war cry.
Is respected, but not taken as law. Because a lot of things got into that, like with the elder. And last question, elder. Specifically, when did the oral statements come into place?
Oral statements always been around. With the oral statements that people are familiar with were compiled by Brother R. Lovell.
Correct.
But there's other records of oral statements. They're just scattered. They're not. They haven't been compiled.
When was that compilation?
I believe that was put together in the 70s. I'm not
In
100%.
the 70s, correct.
Wow, in the 70s. Wow.
In the 70s.
I believe it was in the 70s.
Yeah,
And you got to remember, during that time, Sister Pearl Drew Ali was still alive and still in the body.
If I'm not mistaken, it was like 1970 or 71. Before I was born. I was born in 72.
Right.
It was already Allah Ville that put it together with the elders before they started passing in the nursing homes.
That's right, brother. And Sister Warner Bay she's still around. So
that's right.
A lot of them, they were all. A lot of them were still in the flesh at that time period in the organization. So Sister Pearl, the Prophet's first wife, she was around. Brother T. Booker Bay, the Cook Bay brothers. They were.
You say T. Booker Bay. He also was a UNIA under Marcus Mosaic Garvey, and I think he did security for Marcus Garvey as well. Islam.
Absolutely. Praise the Lord. All right, somebody else can lead the prayer. Go ahead.
The cheerleader. The cheerleader. That's you, Brother Arnell Bay.
We're gonna let Ron close us out. Go ahead, Ron.
The host.
Oh, wait. Hey, look, I got the hat on. Y'all got the fez on. Come on.
It's your heart. It's all in your heart, Mo. Chapter 25, me and Brother Janali. Me and Brother Sharif did chapter 25.
Brother Janali, go ahead, lead it, Brother Bree.
That's right. Close us out, Mo.
Allah.
Get those blessings. Allah.
Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father love.
Father love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
My salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen. I like to follow my